we're so excited because today we've been in a three gathering series called Foundations. And it's been in this series where with the first week, we looked at kind of one of the most foundational aspects of our faith. We look at these words, repentance and faith. And we kind of unpacked what repentance and faith was and how they're the kind of the basis of Christianity. And we have to understand that before we can understand anything else. And then the next week we talked about what it looked like to follow Jesus. So we talked about finding Jesus with repentance and faith. And then the next time we looked at following Jesus. And man, I know for me, that's like a challenging thing because every time that I talk about following Jesus, I recognize when I come up and speak, I have to God has to do a work in me beforehand. And I was looking, I'm like, dang, I've got a lot of room to improve here. I've got a lot of work to do in order to try to position myself to follow Jesus better, in order for the Holy Spirit to empower me and use me. And I hope that you were encouraged by that and challenged. And this week, we're kind of looking at a different foundational aspect. We're looking at a foundation of us here as young adults as Crosspoint. We're looking at a foundational aspect of our ministry here. And man, I really do believe that if we can grasp this last thing for us collectively and personally, I really do believe that God can do some amazing things in our life. I really do believe if we get this, then we can actually unlock incredible things that God would want to do. And what I want to talk to you guys about today, I want to talk to you about boldness. We'll talk to you about being bold. And boldness is the thing that I think is so pivotal to the Christian life. And honestly, it's pivotal to a lot of us in a lot of ways. If you want a girlfriend in here, you got to be bold. Right? Ladies, can we hear a hallelujah? You gotta make the first move, And when I think about boldness, the first thing that came to mind was how scared I was to ask out my now wife, Kyla. I remember thinking I had to have a whole pep, a huge team of people just to psych me out and be you gotta do it, you gotta do it, you gotta do it. And so I was I don't know though. It's no, I don't know for sure, But I remember when I first met my wife, we were in a church in Missouri, and she came in with her roommate. And and I'm not just saying this because we're married now, but I'm oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my entire life. And I remember my stomach immediately collapsed in on itself, and I was just just couldn't speak at all. And so people were just you need to meet Kyla, and I'm of course I do, 100%. Of course I need to meet her. And I went up and talked to her for the first time. And you guys, girls, have you experienced this? When you go up to someone who's just so attractive that you don't know how to speak anymore, You guys are acting like you've never been on a date or been attracted to someone in your whole life. Okay, but this is what happens when you encounter that. Maybe one day you'll get to it. But it was I forgot to speak. I just I'm good to see you, bye. Okay, bye. I just kind of would walk away. And I remember every Sunday I would see her, she'd be at church, and I'd be you got to talk to her, you got to talk to her, you got to be bold. And so I'd walk up to her and her roommate, and they'd be sitting down, and I would walk over and I'd be how's it going, guys? You doing? And they're yeah, good, it's going good. And then I wouldn't know what to do from there on. So I would just re-ask the same question in a different way. So I'd be hey, how's it going, guys? So you doing good then? You doing good? Mm-hmm. They're yeah, cool. And I would make it seem there was something. I was oh yeah, hey, good seeing you. Hey, Jerry. I would make up that there's a certain person there I need to talk to. And this would happen, this happened week after week. And I remember thinking, man, I've got to just talk to her, an extended time. I didn't want to DM her, what I'm saying? I was just let's not be, I don't want to do that. So I don't think, maybe there's something wrong with it. I was about to say there's nothing wrong with it, but maybe you guys should just hold off sometimes. But some of you guys are just I don't know if I can believe this or not. So I didn't want to DM her, but eventually we got to talk a little bit. She came to my small group and we got to hang out. Then I DM'd her after that. And I remember the time where I'm okay, I'm going to ask her out. I'm gonna do it. I had to psych myself up for it. It was a Sunday night. We had, it was a 2-shower day for me. I got showered in the morning, but I was gonna ask her out this Sunday night, so I re-showered. And then I put on a new set of clothes that kind of matched her. I saw her that morning and I kind of matched her unintentionally. And so I was gonna do it. And then my friends were you gotta do it. You gotta do it today. You gotta do it today. You gotta do it today. I'm I'm gonna be bold today. I'm gonna do it. And then she left before I could do it. And she didn't say bye or anything, and it crushed me. And so I was just like, I've got to do this like immediately. So the next young adult event that we had like a bonfire after party. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm laser focused, And whenever you're laser focused and you want to talk to one person, but then like everyone else wants to talk to you. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like you're just like, you only want to talk to one person, but they're just like, hey, how's it going? You're like, cool. But you don't want to be a jerk. And so you like talk to every single person. But the only thing I was thinking about was like, you got to ask Kyla out. You got to ask Kyla out. You got to ask Kyla out. Until finally, we like managed by the end of the night to like get right by each other, and we're talking, and I'm like, here we go. I'm gonna turn on the bold button right here, boys. Let's do this thing. And I'm like, let's do it. And then all of a sudden, her roommate's like, hey, Kylie, you ready to go? She's like, yeah. And she starts walking away. And I was like, I cannot live another day without asking this person out. It will literally kill me. And so she's like walking away. She's like from where to me to this pole is over here. And there's about like 30 or 40 people, 50 people around. And so I just yell out, I said, hey. And it was as if I had said, everyone, turn to me. Turn your attention to this person. Because everyone goes, and I'm like, oh gosh, okay. And so I'm like, you gotta just go for it. And so again, with everything I had in me, I pressed the bold button one more time, and I'm like, hey, do you want to grab coffee sometime? And everyone just like looked at Kyla like, what's she gonna say? And then she's like, yeah. And then we start walking closer, and we get quieter, and everyone still is looking. And I'm like, and I'm so nervous, I don't know what to do. And I'm just like, would you want to go on Tuesday? You want to go on Tuesday? She goes, oh, I can't do that day. We can do. I'm like, okay, I can't do this week. I'm going to be out of town. So we'll figure out a time. We'll figure out a time what works for you, but also works for me. Of course she's going to do that, Rob. What are you like? I'm like overthinking it and over talking. And she goes, stop. It's okay. We'll figure out a time. And we figured out a time. And we got married, y'all. Not then, but a little bit later. But I remember thinking, like, that was like one of the times in my life that I'm like, I have to be bold here. Like, I've got to like do it. Like, I've got to like, press the bold button if I wanted to see some change in this area of my life that was singleness, then go to this area of dating. And then I had to do something else when we were dating seriously. I had to press the bold button again and propose to her and ask her to marry me. And I tell you what, that was one of the most amazing consequences that happened after being bold. That was the most amazing thing. I'm like, man, what if I didn't step out? Like, what would have happened? And just a little side note, guys, I want to encourage you. If you like a girl, just ask her out. Like, just do it. Go ahead and do it. Like, let's not do any of that. Like, we're just talking for a while. We're just kind of talking. We're seeing where it's going to go. Just go ahead and just be like, hey, I kind of like you. Do you want to go out? Girls, is that okay with you? Is that fine? Oh, man. We're just not ready to date in here, I guess. Okay, maybe in a couple years we'll be ready to date, and I'll circle back around on this whole topic, and we can do it. But I think boldness is such an amazing thing. Boldness is actually the ability to spark change into a situation that once seemed bleak. Boldness is what fuels, boldness is the thing that fuels firemen to run into a dangerous situation to save somebody. Boldness is this incredible thing. And boldness is simply this. The definition of boldness is the willingness to take risks and act innovatively, confidence or courage. So if you're in here today, maybe you're in a rut spiritually. Maybe you've been a Christian for a while, but you're just in a rut. You don't know how to get out of it. You don't know what the next step for you to take is. I want to encourage you today. Be bold. Be bold. Maybe you're in here and you just want to see, maybe you're just like so compelled that some of your friends don't know Jesus. And you're like, I just don't know what to do about that. Be bold. Be bold. Step out in faith. Or maybe you're just like waiting for, like, I just want God to show up in my life. I want him to be a part of what's going on in my life. Be bold. Follow him. Talk to him. Or maybe you're here today and you're just like, I don't even know about if I believe that there's a God. I don't know if I believe that this is all real. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm not satisfied with the current answers that I'm having yet. May I encourage you to be bold. Take a risk. To take a step of action. Be courageous. Explore something that you never thought you would be able to explore before. You never know. you might just need some boldness in your life to step out and do the things that you never thought you had the strength to, or you never thought you had the personality to. You know, I think there's this incredible verse in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 12, and it says this. It says, because of Christ, because of Jesus and our faith in him, we can now come boldly and confidently into God's presence. You see, before Jesus came on the scene, we could not just stroll into God's presence. But because Jesus came and he died a perfect life and lived a perfect life, and he died on the cross for us, and he rose again on the third day, he actually offers us access to God. And this is the most amazing thing, because no other time, and even just in normal life, could you ever just go up and access the king or go and access a leader. You know, back in the biblical times, there was actually a threat. If you went into a king's office unannounced, they could kill you on the spot. Like one of the books of the Bible named Esther is a story of a king's wife, a queen. And she was so afraid that if she was going to step out and be bold to go into her husband, the king's office, he could still kill her. And she was so worried about it. And if you haven't read the book of Esther, you should read it. It's fascinating. But what Jesus did is that he actually offered us an ability to go to God and to go boldly to God. And if you're in here and you have not began a relationship with Jesus, or maybe you're still checking it out, can I tell you that you actually are able to go boldly into God's presence because of Jesus? And maybe you've never done that today, and I want to encourage you to explore it. Try it out, to act courageously. You know, I love meeting people who just began a relationship with Jesus, because they're typically like on fire for the Lord. You know, I remember my oldest sister Tiffany, who's here, when she accepted Jesus as her personal Lord and Savior when she was just like a 4 or 5-year-old. She was just like a spitfire. You know what I'm saying? She was just like, she's like as intense as she was now, but just with a little less filters, you know? And so she was going around telling everybody, she's like, you need to get saved. I need to tell you about Jesus. I need to tell you about Jesus. And I remember my parents told the story when she, like the day after she accepted Jesus, that she went over to her neighbor friend's house and she came back and she's like, hey, by the way, our neighbor friend accepted the Lord. And so my mom's like, did she? She goes, well, she didn't want to, but I prayed the prayer for her. So now I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Tiffany wasn't great with theology back then. She just was zealous for God. But you know, I love that a person who just became a Christian, they're kind of like a CrossFitter. Like they'll have to tell you about it. And he's like, by the way, do you know I am a Christian? Like I haven't showed you that yet. Like I'm a CrossFitter as well. That's a combination right there. Can you imagine someone who just doing CrossFit who just got saved? Wow, that's a combination. That's a big combination. You know, I still just get so excited for when God shows up in someone's life and they totally change it and they totally come in and it's just amazing. Like I still get so pumped about Kanye. And I think some people are just like, you know, like, why are you talking about celebrity all the time? I'm like, because he's got a huge platform. And his life before was very different from his life after Christ. And he's still learning, he's still growing and all this stuff. But I just love that he stepped out in faith and he wrote an album called Jesus is King. That's very different than what he had done before when he called himself a God, when he called himself Jesus. Like, it's amazing, this transformation that's taken place. And there's a quote that he said in one of the interviews that I think is just amazing. And this shows you kind of the boldness of Kanye. And I love that Kanye's still Kanye. Like, just he's a Christian now. Like, he's still, like, bold and, like, kind of like, well, are you crazy a little bit? But this is what he said. He said this. He said, my job now is to spread the gospel and to let people know what Jesus has done for me. He said, I spread a lot of things. I used to spread a lot of things. There was a time in my life where I was spreading what high fashion had done for me. He said, I was letting you know what the Hennessy had done for me. I was letting you know all these things, but now I'm letting you know what Jesus has done for me and that I'm no longer a slave. I'm a son now. I'm a son of God. I'm free. That's pretty amazing. That's amazing. He said this in an interview with Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel asked him, he said, so Connie, do you consider yourself a Christian artist? Now he goes, I'm a Christian everything now. I'm like, that's the most Kanye answer to anything ever, you know? I love that. Like, I never get tired of hearing stories of people finding Jesus and following Jesus. You know, like that's why we're going to continually celebrate when people pass over from death into life. You know, we played this video, Jaden's story, last Young Adults, and we posted it on Instagram and Facebook, and we played it again on Sunday. And some of you are like, why are we playing that again? Because we'll never get tired of hearing this story of how Jesus is so good, and he's so kind, and he can save people from their sins, and how it worked in her life. Like, we're never going to get tired of hearing about Jaden. We're never going to get tired about hearing about Kyle. We're never going to get tired about hearing about Anna. We're never going to get tired about hearing about Jake. One of the OGs knows him. He moved away to Texas. But we're never going to get tired about it. We're never going to get tired telling this story. And tonight, I just want to leave you with a simple sermon, a simple message that hopefully you can take to heart. And the message is this, that there's never anyone who is too far from God. There's never anyone who's too far from God. God is so powerful. God is so big. He's so strong, and he is so loving. And there is no one outside of his reach to redeem. You know, I remember there was a time where I don't know if if someone were to ask me this, I would have said the right thing, but I don't know if I would have fully believed it, you know. I remember in high school, there's this guy named Chase. And Chase and I were in the same grade. We had some mutual friends and stuff, but Chase is honestly pretty big jerk. You know, if I were to describe someone who was like far from God, I would put Chase like top of the list. You know what I'm saying? Chase, he would just like randomly just hit me for no reason. I'm like, what? I don't understand. You know, so I'm like, wasn't a big fan of Chase. You know, he was an incredible athlete. Like, we played football together, and one year after our sophomore year of football, I remember he was getting ready to play basketball, but then he noticed some pain in his back. And then all of a sudden he went to the doctor and realized that there was something way more serious going on. And it turns out he had a staph infection in his spine. And Chase missed a half a year of school. Chase, his whole life turned upside down. And I remember seeing him at the football banquet, a way later, and he had his little walker and stuff, and they said he wasn't gonna be able to walk again. But he was Chase is one of those persistent dudes. He's definitely an 8 on the Enneagram. I haven't tested it on this, but he's definitely an 8. And he's walking in, and I remember thinking man, I just feel so bad for him. But then here's my little faith, just showing you how little faith I had. But one of our other good friends, Curtis, who went to church with us, he invited Chase to come to church. And I remember thinking, I'm like, no way, Chase is going to church. Are you kidding me? There's no way. But one day I walked in, and I see my buddy Chase over there. I'm like, oh, have you guys ever done that? Just shows how, human we are. Have you ever walked into a church and be like, that person's here? Whoa, that's incredible. She's here? No way. That's what I was feeling in this moment. I remember thinking, I'm like, man, this is unbelievable. But then as Chase kept going, and he kept going, and he kept interacting with people, and he kept interacting with people, and Chase eventually began a relationship with Jesus. And since then, Chase's life has never been the same. You know, Chase eventually, he's back to pretty much healthy, which is just kind of a miracle. And Chase is actually now a doctor overseas, and he's one of the most on-fire Christians that I know. And I think every time I see him post about something on Facebook, he may talk about God and something, I'm just I celebrate. I'm like, God, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe it. You took someone who I thought was so far away, and you changed them. And their life is full of joy and purpose and meaning. There's never anyone too far that God cannot save. And this should give us the boldness as the people of God to step out in faith and to see what God could do with us. You know, there's a story in the book of Acts. In the book of Acts, Jesus had risen from the dead. He had, been with people for a number of days, and then Jesus eventually ascends into heaven. And this made such a big impact on his disciples, as I'm sure you would probably guess. And they were so impacted by what they had just seen and what they had just heard and what they had just experienced that they were going around, they were telling everybody about it. They were telling everybody, and they were preaching Jesus. They were telling that he was the answer to the problem of sin. He was the answer to the problem of death. He was the answer to everything. He was the way to salvation. And the religious leaders at the time were ticked. They're like this man, like they're ruining what they had kind of built up. Like they had their own power, they had their own network, and all of a sudden this comes in and it throws a wrinkle in everything. And they hated that these apostles and these disciples were preaching about Jesus. And so what they did is they gathered all the disciples up and they threw them in jail. And they're like, you need to stop it. You need to stop. Don't say it anymore. Don't talk about Jesus. Don't say anything like that. And then the disciples are like, listen, are we going to listen to you? Are we going to listen to God? He's like, we're not going to stop teaching people about this. We're not going to stop telling people about this. And they told, and they're kind of discussing like, okay, what should we do? And they're like, and they had been performing miracles. And so they're like, okay, the people like saw the miracles and like, let's just let them go. Let's tell them to not do it again. And let's tell them to let them go. And here's what the disciples knew. The disciples knew that wasn't going to be the last time they were in prison. The disciples knew this wasn't the last time that they were going to experience persecution for teaching about Jesus. And I feel like this is one of the most like amazing verses in the Bible. If as a Christ follower, as a Christian in here, this is one of those verses that like so convicts me and gets me pumped up to serve God with boldness. And it says this in Acts chapter 4, verse 29, right after they were let out of prison. Right after all this stuff happened, they prayed a prayer. And this is what their prayer said. It says this, and now, O Lord, hear their threats and give us, your servants, great boldness in preaching your word. You know, I think it's so interesting that these men, they didn't go around praying, God, I pray that these people would be nicer. God, can you make them nicer, less violent? Like, God, can you please do this? They say, God, can you please help these people to not put us in jail again? God, would you just go ahead and just protect us from jail? Put a hedge of protection around us so that we can not go to jail? Give us a get out of jail free card. Or God, I pray that no harm would befall on us. You know, I don't think those are bad things to pray for at all, but these disciples did not pray for this. They prayed for boldness instead. Why do you think that is? This goes to what Jesus said while he was on earth. Jesus told them that the reality of life and the reality of being a human being on planet Earth was that you can't bypass trouble. You can't bypass trouble. And this is what he says to them, and this is what he says to us here today. He says this in John chapter 16, verses 33. It says, I have told you all of this, that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world. You know, some of you need to heed this warning from Jesus, because every time, you may be a Christian in here, but every time like trouble pops up or trials pop up or something pops up, you are just thrown off your rocker. You don't know what to do. You're like, how could this happen? I'm struggling in my faith now. God, why would you do this? Every time this happens, and sometimes many of you, maybe you pull away from church, you pull away from community or your group or whatever, and you're just like, I'm struggling, I don't know what to do, I'm gonna check out. I'm not gonna do this. And you begin to get mad at God for him allowing these things to happen to you. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't pray for things to be easier in life. I pray for that all the time. I pray for protection. I pray for all this stuff. But what I think is interesting that the early church leaders prayed for more than anything else was they prayed for boldness. They knew that Jesus had overcome the world so they could take heart. Jesus says, take heart. And take heart simply means this. It means becoming confident or courageous or bold during a difficult situation. You know, some of you will only be bold for God when things are going well for you. Some of you will only serve God when things are nice and you're not in a valley, you're on the mountaintop and you're doing good. How can you be sure that you can serve God and be bold and accomplish the mission of God even when things are not going well in your life? The answer is you need to take heart. You just got to put all your trust in Jesus, that he's got you, that he's going to sustain you, that he's going to keep you, that there's nothing that's going to be coming across you that you can't handle without him. You know, so on behalf of our community today, I want to tell you the three things that I want you to be bold in this week. And these are three things that I'm going to close with that I really do believe if we can be bold in these areas, no matter what's going on in our lives, no matter the circumstances that we're experiencing, I believe that God will, one, show up in our lives in a big way, and our inside out will be transformed because of the work of God and the Holy Spirit in our lives. But two, I believe if we are bold in these three areas, that God will use us to impact the people around us. He will use us to lead more people to find and follow Jesus. He will use us to help more people get out of addiction. He will use us to help more people get out of anxiety and depression. He will use us to help the people around us who are struggling, who are hurting. And the first thing that we need to be bold in is we need to be bold in our invitations. We need to be bold in our invitations. You know, you need to invite people to your group. You need to invite people into your growth group. Invite people to gatherings. Invite people to our Christmas gathering. Invite people to our winter retreat that we're doing. Why? Because we have the answer that's Jesus. And in the context of community where people can work out their faith and they have struggles and they have questions, we can all do it together. Because life is not a solo assignment. It's not a solo sport. It's a group project. And God knew this, and so he put us into communities, churches, because we can't do life by ourselves. And so what we need to be good at, and what we need to step out in boldness, even more so than we already are, is being bold enough to invite. When we hear these three, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you three things to listen for. And this is when you hear one of these three things, your spider sense should go up, and you should be like, I need to invite them to church. I need to invite them to my group. I need to invite them to hang out with me. And these are the three things. When people are going through tension, when people are going through trouble, and when people are going through transition. So when someone says, man, I just don't know what to do. My work schedule is crazy. I'm at a loss for what to do. Your spider sense would be like, bling, and you'd be like, hey, you need to come to church with me. Hey, you want to come to my group? Man, it's an awesome environment. Come to do that. Or maybe like, hey, I just moved to the area. I don't really know. I have a lot of friends or anything. Like, bing. Like, hey, you want to come hang out with me at church? Like, hey, come with me, young adults. Like, come to my growth group. I've got a great group of people that I meet with every week that we encourage each other. We hang out. We have a good time. You need to be aware of these opportunities, this tension, trouble, and transition. And we need to be bold to step out and invite. The second area that I want to encourage you to be bold this weekend is be bold in your serving. And bold in your serving. That's why I want you to attend Leader Track. I want you to be able to be used by God, to be ready to be used by God. I want you to start serving here at Young Adults. Like, I want you to sign up for our Serve Day event that's happening this Saturday. Why? Because I believe you're never more like Jesus than when you serve people. And we want to make it easy for you to serve. That's why we have Serve Day. That's why we have Leader Track. We want to make sure that we are enabling our people here at Young Adults to be servants, to serve people, to make an impact in people's lives. And why do I want you to serve here at Young Adults? Because we have a vision that is from God where we want to reach 800 people in a 10-mile radius of here, this building. 800 young adults. And that's not going to happen on spare time and pocket change. That's only going to happen when all of us come together and we're going to say we're going to be bold in our serving. Be like, hey, there's not a space for me yet. You start volunteering, we'll make a space for you because we're praying that more people come in, and we need to help you to be an impact on the people that are able to come in soon. We have a big vision, and we want you to be a part of it. And the last thing I want you to be bold in is we need to be bold in our praying. Be bold in our praying. Like, what if every single person in here today, we prayed that God would give us opportunities to reach out to people, that God would give us opportunities to talk to people and invite people to church and have a spiritual conversation? What if we all in here did that? I promise you, this is one of those prayers that God will answer in your life, like pretty quickly. Like, this is a prayer that I sometimes am scared to ask because I feel like God will immediately drop someone in my life. You know, a couple weeks ago, I was at a park on Yorba Linda Avenue. or Boulevard. And I remember I was walking through, and I was praying about our community, and I was praying that God would embolden us to be able to reach out and help people and to have conversations with people and be bold. And I remember thinking, and I always think, I'm like, God, I don't want to ever ask someone else to do what I'm not willing to do. And so I said, God, I pray that you would put people in my path that I could talk to, that I'd be able to invite to church, that I could have a spiritual conversation with, that I could help in some way. And I remember thinking, I was walking, and all of a sudden I see a guy playing basketball by himself. And I'm just thinking, God, I pray that you would put someone in my path, that I would do this. It would be awesome. Come on, God, I pray that. And then I saw that person, and immediately I'm like, not him though. Probably not him. He's fine. He's doing good. He's doing good. And I walked by him, and I remember God saying, hey, Rob, remember what you just told me like a second ago? Remember that? I'm like, who's this? Yeah. Oh, okay. And I remember thinking, okay, but this is unbelievable. I need to do this. I need to do this. And so I walk over to him, and I'm awkward as I'll be. You know, I walk over, and I'm just like, he's in the shade at this point. I'm like, hot day today, huh? That's my opening line. I'm like, I don't know. God will use this foolishness of my speaking. And I struck up a conversation with him. And it turns out, I asked him if he went to church anywhere, and it turns out he's a part of a great church here in town. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. And he said, yeah, I was in a group for a while, but then I haven't gone on. I'm like, hey, you should go back to a group. I so believe in groups. Those are amazing things. And he was like, yeah, I should. And then, we parted ways, and I remember thinking, like, God, but that wasn't even like a divine appointment. Like, he didn't take an invitation to church like he was a pretty part of a Christian. He was already a Christian, I remember God spoke to me in that moment. And I feel like God was saying, Rob, I didn't ask you to do this. I didn't ask you to go up and talk to him because I wanted him to come to church with you at your church. I asked you to go talk to him to test you, to see if you really believed what you were asking me to do. And I remember thinking, God was saying, like, Rob, I'll take care of the outcome. I just want you to participate. I want you to be bold and ask. And if you want to work out and get some reps asking people who already go to church, that's good. You need to get your reps asking people who already go to church, because there comes a time when you go up to someone who doesn't go to church, who is in trouble, tension, transition, who's struggling with something, and you're going to be ready, not because you're not going to be coming in cold, you're going to be coming in hot, ready to go. And I remember thinking, man, that wasn't a waste. That wasn't a waste. I really do believe boldness is going to be one of the foundations that this ministry is built on. We're going to be bold in our asks. We're going to be bold and say, hey, we want you to serve. We want you to have a high commitment in serving. Why? Because we have a big vision. We're going to be bold saying, hey, we want you to invite people, not just so we can have more people here. Who cares about that? We want more people who can experience the love and the connection and the power and the freedom that comes when you begin a relationship with Jesus. That's what we want. And I want not only those people to experience it, I want you to be able to experience what it feels like to see one of your friends come to know the Lord. It's one of the most amazing things that can ever happen in your life. So could you do that with me, young adults at Crosspoint? Will you be bold? Will you be bold in your invitations? Will you be bold in your serving? Will you be bold in your praying? I really do believe being bold and stepping out in faith is one of the key ingredients to being a Christ follower. And I believe that when we do it, God will do some amazing things.